Brigade presents The Realty Debate, powered by Reliance Home Finance with Manisha Natarajan.
There's been a change of guard in the Environment Ministry, and the new Union Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Anil Madhav Dave, is best known for his grand event managerial skills and has positioned himself well as an environmentalist, thinker, writer, river conservationist, and a political strategist, all rolled into one. He takes over from the 65-year-old Prakash Javadekar, who in the cabinet shuffle has been elevated. Reports say this came as a reward for bringing reforms in the Green Ministry, which during UPA regime was projected as a roadblock ministry by the industry. After taking over as minister in May 2014, Mr. Javadekar on the very first day announced to make all the clearances online to bring transparency and fixed responsibility of officials dealing project files. So under him, Ministry of Environment and Forest claimed that the time required for project clearances was brought down to 192 days from 600 days, and it's going to further drop to 100 days. Today in the Realty Debate, we will ask our panelists whether the outgoing minister was really able to fix the big bane of environmental clearances for realty projects, and also ask them what are the pending tasks for the new minister. We're joined by Irfan Razak, CMD Prestige Group and Chairman CREDAI. Also, Sudhir Krishna joins us, former Secretary, Urban Development Ministry, Manit Rastogi, Managing Partner, Morphogenesis, Millie Majumdar, Managing Director, Green Business Certification Institute, India, and Senior Vice President of US GBC. Mr. Razak, as the Chairman of CREDAI, do you think Mr. Javadekar did enough before going?
Mr. Javadekar was quite proactive. See, while Manisha, we must see that the baseline environment is important, protecting of environment is important, and also the development has to go hand in hand while you see that the environment concerns also taken care of. Now, in this scenario, when Mr. Javadekar took over as the Minister for Environment, what we represented was, listen, apart from whatever else that needs to be done to protect environment, there also has to be a concern and a need for an ease to do business. Now, this ease of doing business should happen. At the same time, whatever the policy that is there laid down by the government also needs to be implemented. Now, the red tape needed to be cut, and I think Mr. Javadekar very successfully managed to cut the red tape, brought in a lot of processes, a lot of systems which actually, like you rightly said, cut the timeline for getting the clearances, not only for real estate projects, but also for the industry. And this went with the policy of the government of Make in India, a policy of government of development, and quick movement for development. Because I always believe time is cost, time is money. And if things get delayed, it's only going to add to the stress, add to the cost, and at the end of the day, nobody benefits, and it's a big, huge burden on the entire economy and the system itself. Now, to this end, I think the Environment Minister did a great job. He was streamlining a lot of things, and to the extent that we also said that the things like, the environment clearance that we get for real estate, though the committee goes through it, the authority goes through it, but at the end of the day, what we do get is a standard set of conditions that are given to every real estate project, apart from some social commitment which they ask for us. Right. So our claim was, why don't you link it with the local bodies, and let the local bodies, when they give us the approvals, put in all these conditions, whichever that have been imposed by the Environment Ministry to us, and also ask us for the social commitment there. And we were moving towards that. I don't know if any city or state got that, but in Karnataka, we still are getting the regular clearances, but they do and are happening at a faster pace. Of course, we are now in Bangalore, we are hit by a different order from the NGT recently, and that's a separate subject. But all in all, I think Mr. Javadekar did an outstanding job. And being the policy of the same government, I do see some better reforms from the new minister.
Mr. Sudhir Krishna, I mean, you've been following, it's not just the Environment Ministry, but for a change, Urban Development Ministry got together and they had a joint press conference realizing that approval processes and getting them to move faster, ease of doing business is a really important demand of real estate. So all in all, left a decent, good legacy for projects to take off, you would say, sir?
I think a lot of good work has been done in the last 2 years particularly. And for instance, certain things, waste management rules have been notified very recently and which were lingering for years.
Right.
The solid waste management, municipal solid waste management, bio waste management, e-waste management rules, and construction and demolition waste management rules, and so on. So this is a very big achievement. And the rules, if those who have seen those rules, they are very well drafted, and they lay down standards also, and they lay down to an extent they give hint at the processes also. So ideally the forest laws, environmental laws and should be enablers and not for restricting things. It should not be like policing as to don't do this, don't do that, but rather than do this way. That should help a lot. So that is one achievement of this set of rules, is that these have become enabling rules. That is one. Secondly, but one major is still a goal that has to be achieved, is to make the laws comprehensive. Today environmental laws are more through court rulings than through substantive laws. The Environment Protection Act and the related rules, they are overwhelmed by the catena and plethora of court rulings and so on, which proves that the laws are not adequately designed and the laws have not kept pace with the changes. So you find, there will be thousands of rulings of court initiated by the well-intended
activists. This is what Mr. Razak was talking. Bangalore is dealing with NGT rulings and not a day-to-day to discuss it. But
exactly, you have forgotten about there's somebody called district forest officer or range forest officer. We know more about the green tribunals and courts and so on. So the regulatory mechanism has yielded to a situation where the laws are by interpretation and not by the normal understanding. So this is the second thing I would say. And thirdly, I would say that there is a CAMPA, this is the compensatory forest management provisions are there. And whenever you are taking up a project which touches any tree, then you have to deposit some money in that fund so that the forest can be used for development of forest. And as we understand, it has come on record, there are more than 40,000 crore rupees are lying in that fund not utilized. So we have to make use, I think, the new...
greening, of course, if a tree...
and so much money is there and so much land is available in our country for greening.
This is something, absolutely, this is something that the new minister can totally do.
Exactly.
40,000 crore?
Yes.
Lying in that fund, unutilized. Okay, so that's a big point on the agenda. I will come to Manit because he will actually sum it all up for us. But Millie, what's your view in terms of not just the clearances which have been moved to municipal corporations within the building bylaws, and the files don't have to come to the central government anymore, which is a big step, big ease of doing business in real estate, and even things like waste management, waste, how do you treat waste from construction sites, because we are only dealing with real estate here. A lot of rules have been laid out, but implementation, now that's my other question, will states adopt it and will these get implemented?
Yeah, Manisha, you are very right that there has been a devolution to the states in terms of offering environmental clearances, because initially it was part of the central ministry. However, and personally I was also part of this clearance process for a very long time, and I am still part of the infra committee there. So I feel that this devolution has actually eased out in terms of time of the clearances, but in terms of the quality I have a serious issue with that, because if you see even in the state environment clearance committees which are there, you do not have adequate capacities to evaluate these projects. So there is no consistency in the clearances given, and as rightly also Mr. Razak said, that sometimes it's a standard set of conditions which may or may not apply. So you do not have right capacity representation and also the capacity to monitor the implementation. So there is a large gap there, and there I think there is a large role which public-private participation can play, because I represent a sector where we have been doing it for voluntary, for projects that go for voluntary green certification. So I see that, a combination of mandatory as well as voluntary mechanism can help us to achieve the desired results.
Okay.
If it is only
would you want
enforced,
anything from the new minister? What is it
yes,
that you would like from Mr. Dave?
I think it has to be, made more tighter in terms of how the states are doing it, and take regular feedback, and maybe go and do sample projects and sample monitoring, that whatever clearances have been given, whether they are performing and whether they have actually, implemented the things that were mandated during the clearance. That is very crucial. And one more thing I think which Mr. Javadekar has done, and which is very important in context of the global agenda, is that he was instrumental in creating the INDC document that has set India on the global, yes,
which has actually come under a lot of flack.
Yes, but there real estate has a major role to play in terms of achieving those targets. So I think that's a very crucial thing, and that I'm just flagging this as something which was a very important document, and it has been really done well. And if those things are followed, then we will be achieving a lot of our goals and targets, and prove ourselves globally as well.
Okay. All right, Manit, over to you. What do you think of the outgoing minister and the agenda for the new minister? What should he be focusing on?
Well, Manisha, as always, the outgoing minister is still a minister in some other ministry, and he's left, the nature and man conflict to now be with only the man in the HRD ministry.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So one can't really say, if you look at all the people who were from the, who were the environmentalists, say he did a really terrible job. If you look at all the people who were from the, either the real estate or the industrialists, say he did a very good job. Now, the real question is that, and as an environment minister, is that the only position you can take? That you can only please one and not the other, okay? And that is in the context of Mr. Dave coming in now. Now, it's great to have a minister who's in principle is he's done some great work with the Narmada River. He's a river, he's got all the right credentials.
Okay.
I'm very happy. Okay, I'm very happy.
Will he be able to balance? Because I mean, you say that the industry was happy, but the environmentalists weren't. But there was UPA government where you actually had Environment Ministry becoming a complete roadblock, and it's a known fact, roadblock to any project or any development.
I agree.
So you think that this can be balanced and he could play that role?
Manisha, see, the point is that what we have to recognize is that all our cities, right, are on the verge of environmental crises. We are on an environmental emergency.
Right.
Okay, between our waste disposal systems, our refuse dumps, our water management strategies, our air pollution, across the board, across the country, we probably have the list of the worst cities today in terms of environmental degradation. Okay, so let's start with that. And I know that, and then we have all these knee-jerk reactions like what's happened in Bangalore, for example. Okay, was the entire ministry sleeping for the last 5 decades when the lakes of Bangalore were being devastated?
Right.
When the nalas of Delhi have ran from fresh water streams to open sewage, where was the ministry then? Okay. And if the knee-jerk reaction is always going to be from a ministry that it's one or the other, they're going to clamp down, no development, right? Then is that the solution?
So it's actually worse, which is what Mr. Sudhir Krishna said, and which is what Mr. Razak also pointed out, that you might have eased doing business there, but the laws and rules are so arbitrary right now that they're constantly going to the court, and that doesn't help anybody at all. So what does the new minister do? How can he resolve this?
So, first and foremost, you have to understand that environment and nature is a contiguous living system. Right? If a river goes through part of Delhi and it goes through part of Haryana and part of UP, it's not 3 different rivers. You can't have 3 different laws governing that same river. You cannot have different rules for ecology. If the Aravallis in Delhi and the Aravallis in Haryana and it's not a different ecological system. That's the nature of environment. The air on top of Delhi does not change when it goes to Noida. It's the same contiguous system. Now, when you're dealing with nature, okay, as opposed to development is discrete. Nature is not.
Right.
Until you begin to understand that conflict, you will not find the solutions. We are trying to find solutions to environment by only looking at a very restricted model of what that project is. What we are not being able to do is to look at it as an environmental master plan for the country of India and say that, okay, let's abandon for 1 second in our minds physical boundaries of state of regions, of right down to the individual plots, and let us see what the environmental master plan of India looks like. And in that construct, how do we begin to look at a development on a 100-year plan, not on a 5-year plan?
Oh,
nature is not a 5-year entity.
Sudhir Krishna, you've been part of that planning body, administrative body. I mean, does it seem too utopic for India?
It is not utopic, but only thing is we have to break into manageable and implementable framework.
And
in the sense that
we're still a republic.
Yeah.
I mean, you might say nature has no boundaries, but air travels everywhere. But the fact is that we are a republic of states coming together.
And not only of states, the municipalities, the panchayats, the local bodies. So therefore, every local body has to be sensitized and their capacities have to be enhanced to understand about the locality. We talk of India being a great country, all right, India being clean, but what about our neighborhood? What about our city? The rivers, as I mentioned before, Yamuna is an example, Ganga is an example, I mean critical examples. Unless the cities clean themselves, the rivers cannot be clean. So therefore, each city should prepare a city master plan for environmental, it is called city sanitation plan in one way. You can call city environment plan also, which will take care of recycling of wastewater, recycling of these all kinds of waste, and that will not only make the city good, it will reduce the requirement of drinking water, which we are all feeling.
So city level plans sound like a great solution, Manit. So you have a top down and a bottoms up approach. You'll need it. Okay, so quickly, if there was one thing that you wanted from the new minister, Mr. Razak, just one thing, what would you want from Mr. Dave?
No, I think it's just can't say on one thing. I like the vision of Manit. You see, basically, if we have a vision of what we want for the country, and there are many things that can be done. If the minister can spell out a vision for the environment for the country, and of course, see the whole focus should be that I agree with Mr. Krishna also saying that listen, the environment clearances should be more enabling to see how development happens rather than a blockage. Now, once we have the vision and an enabler and a sensitizing with the general people, the developing community who is doing all this work, like things like wastewater management, solid waste disposal, sewage disposal, if all these issues are addressed and if everybody is sensitized on these issues, I think we'll have a solution because it's just not one solution that we can look at. It's a comprehensive solution that we should look at, and that is important because it's just not about getting a clearance to start a project. It's about sincerely seeing that whatever we do, we have that sensitivity to see that the environment which we are working in is protected because it's for the future.
I'm going to wrap out on that. I think that's a fantastic concluding answer from Mr. Razak. Mr. Razak, thank you very much. Sudhir Krishna, Manit Rastogi, Millie Majumdar. It's not an easy task. It's such a critical task. It's almost an emergency, like Manit Rastogi said. It is an emergency, but really, it's not just the ministry which can do or a minister which can do this. It's every citizen has to understand that this is an emergency and participate in a Swachh Bharat or any of these schemes. They're not going to be successful till you and I also participate in it. I'm going to wrap out on the realty debate. Join us again next week for another burning topic on real estate and India's top expert voices on the matter. This is just the show if you're in the business of property. Goodbye and thanks so much for joining.